Program, the Danny Schneider Show of Music. I'm Danny Schneider. Today I am honored and privileged to have a legendary guest in the studio with me. His name is George Duke. This is his most recent record, although you're going to see one in the very shortly out, available for lovers only, right? That's your new one?
Well, it's called After Hours, but it's for lovers only.
It's for lovers only, but it's called After Hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just going to be nice, mellow.
Yeah, but it's not for lovers only.
Okay.
It's for other folks too, wannabes.
Wannabe lovers?
Yeah.
Okay, that should include me. But for those who aren't that familiar with George Duke, if that's possible, let me tell you a few people he's worked with. He's worked with Al Jarreau, Jean-Luc Ponty, Frank Zappa, Cannonball Adderley, Billy Cobham. That's as a musician. As a producer, Dee Dee Bridgewater, Taste of Honey, Jeffrey Osborne. I'm reading this off a list because I don't have a memory that can memorize, but I think it's important. Denise Williams, Stanley Clarke, Shantae Moore, Johnny Gill, Babyface, Anita Baker, Keith Sweat, Escape, Drew Hill, Puff Daddy, Natalie Cole, Rufus. He works for the as music director for many programs, including the Soul Train Music Awards, Burt Bacharach, Philip Bailey, the Winans, you name it. So again, I'm very honored to have you here today. Been looking forward to this for several months. I've been trying to fit into your schedule.
Right.
I know you just got back from Japan.
Yeah.
And you were with the...
Yeah, I was the music director for the Montreux Jazz Festival, the first one they're having in Japan. And it was really interesting. I was music director for 2 days with Billy Cobham. I worked with him, with Najee, the sax player, and Phil Perry, who's an incredible singer, among others.
Yeah, that's great. Well, let me ask you the kind of traditional question to begin, so we can get a little idea how you started in music, what got you interested in music, and how you learned, and so a little history of George Duke.
Sure. Well, basically, I started when I was around 7 years old. However, when I was 4, my mom used to take me, 4 or 5 years old, she used to take me to Duke Ellington concerts. Nice. And Lionel Hampton and people like that. And so I would get a chance to see this. But not only jazz, I got a chance to see plays, I got a chance to see ballets, I got a chance to see orchestral music, choirs, choral music. So she took me to a variety of things, but jazz really got to me. And so by the time I was 7 years old, I told my mom, I can do this. And I want to be like that guy I saw in that white suit, who was Duke Ellington at the time, who spoke very intelligently, but was still cool. Duke was cool, but he was intelligent. And he seemed to be in control. He was waving his arms and he was playing something. I didn't know what it was. It was a piano. And I told my mom, get me a piano, and that's really how it started.
What city was this? I know you're from Northern California, right?
San Francisco, yeah. I grew up on the northern side next to Sausalito, California.
Yeah.
Went to school there, but she used to take me to San Francisco for the shows.
I see. So your mom then was a big influence and exposed you to a lot of different type of music at a very young age.
Including the church.
In church, too.
Because she got me involved with that, and eventually I began to play in church, and that's how I got funky.
I see. Were you self-taught? Did you take lessons?
No, I started taking lessons when I was 7, and from a local teacher there, and eventually as I got through those little Lila Fletcher piano course books, at the end of the book they had these little awards, And I was looking forward to getting through those books, so I get a little award and put it on my wall, After I got through 3 of those books, it was time for me to work with someone that could really show me the techniques of playing the piano. And so I began working with a teacher in San Francisco.
I see. And then did you play clubs and things like that? I know one of the first people you worked with was Al Jarreau? Yeah,
moving right along, I started during college looking for a gig to help support my school. So I got a gig at a place called the Half Note Club, and this guy used to come out on Sunday afternoons and sing. His name was Al Jarreau. At the time, he was a sociologist, and I was an undergraduate at school. So the club... San Francisco Conservatory of Music.
Ah, I see.
And Al used to come by on Sundays, and eventually the club owner said, well, look, why don't you guys get together and put a group? I think you got something happening here. We worked for like 3 years there, honing our craft, writing music. And as a matter of fact, some of that music that we created during that period, during 1965, I hate to say, a long time ago, I'm going to release next year. Yeah, some of it.
Oh, that sounds good.
We taped it.
Well, then how did you then begin? You worked with Al Jarreau, and then you guys became sort of known together. I guess what I'm kind of asking as an up-and-coming artist who might be listening, or myself, what was that transition from, you know, a local musician to a well-known, and of course in working with famous artists and then producer? We're at the kind of point where you break, that lucky break or something? Is there something like that?
Yeah, but you know, the funny part about it is I kind of had to make my break.
Oh, this is what I want to hear.
There was a point in time where I decided, I just knew that this was a crux in the road. And I was had just graduated, I was teaching school. As a matter of fact, at Merritt Junior College in Oakland, and I got a call from Frank Zappa. And it's kind of interesting, you know. Let me back up just a little bit from that. Basically, when I was still in school, I found out that Jean-Luc Ponty was going to be coming to the States. Now, I had heard him on the jazz station in San Francisco, and I said, I want to work with this guy. Something tells me that this is a big break for me. And I began sending tapes, calling. I mean, I became awful. I mean, I became a little, like, I'm the only guy that can do this. And finally they played the tape for Jean-Luc, and he said, let's give the kid a shot. And I said, I have already a band together. All Jean-Luc's got to do, we know his music. All he's got to do is come in and play. We did it the first time, and it worked. And because Jean-Luc was an interesting musician playing electric violin, people didn't hear that, playing jazz, all the musicians would come. Frank Zappa, Cannonball Adderley, everybody in LA would come to see Jean-Luc, and I happened to be there playing fairly well. And that's how it happened, because I had the audacity to go in and say, I'm the only guy that can play with this person.
I like that. That's a good story.
Yeah, it's true.
So audacity has something to do with, I've heard that word used before, but not obnoxiousness.
Well, I didn't know, not obnoxious. It was just sort of righteous indignation.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I had to get, you know, I don't recommend people just who come to me all the time and I'm just shoving cassettes down your
like
throat.
I almost did.
But you know, no, you didn't do that.
No,
but you have to be kind of, you know, confident about what you do and your abilities. And at a certain point, if you don't make a step, it'll never happen. And I know so many musicians who are like that, are still playing the same clubs they always play because they didn't take that step and take the initiative and walk through that door when they had the chance.
Yeah, that sounds good. Do you consider yourself a musician primarily, or musician first and a producer second, or are they both the same, or do you switch back and forth, or what do you
All of that. I consider myself a musician first, there's no doubt about it, but now my duties are really pretty much split between production and performance, you know, as an artist. So I kind of, they're more evenly split now than they used to be.
I see. You know, you've been through many different musical periods. So you worked in jazz, and then you did things with Taste of Honey, and during the disco period, and then, well, that's disco. I like that disco music now, especially. And then Frank Zappa, a lot of different musical styles. You talk about renewing your audience. I guess what I'm asking is, how does one have a long career and not get, you know, typecast into one type of music?
You know, I think it's diversity. For me, it's renewing your goals and constantly striving to do something a little different and pushing yourself in slightly different directions and being aware of what's going on around you, you know, and having friends. It's all of that. I try not to burn my bridges, so I have friends that when I'm not on top, you know, because no one's going to stay all the way up in the top with the charts all the time. You start falling down. It helps to have a friend kind of, you know, cushion your fall and kind of keep giving you jobs and keep giving you shots. That's part of it. But a lot of it is the changes that you go through, you know, and renewing your audience. And you were talking about that. As an artist, every 10 years, it seems like you have people that drop off. There's a certain amount of people that will continue to come see you. And your sales will drop down, but you have to try to find a new audience, see what's being played on the radio, kind of, not saying you cater to what's going on over there, but you find a way to fit your style into what's going on now, and then all of a sudden you got a new audience. A perfect example of that is what I did with Billy Cobham in Japan. I haven't worked with him in 20 years.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I played the Montreux Jazz Festival, and a lot of kids who just didn't know, they just happened to be there. And they came in, they heard us play, and they came up after the show and said, who are you old guys, and what is this music you're playing?
You were playing kind of fusion
Yeah.
back in the the Mahavishnu and Return to
Yeah.
Forever
I know.
style, blah, that kind of back in that time.
Absolutely.
I see. Yeah. Boy, I tell you. Well, as a producer too, you talk about creating an environment for the artists you're working with. Do you do that too in a live performance?
Oh yeah. Well.
But as a producer, it's, maybe I'm jumping here a little bit around, but when you create an environment, what do you mean by that?
Well, everybody's different. I'm getting ready, for example, now to start work with Diane Reeves. As soon as I get off the road here, I'm going to start working on her album. And her needs as an artist are totally different than Anita Baker or Rochelle Farrell, who are two other people I'm going to work with directly after Diane. The environment I have to set up for Diane is not the same as Anita Baker, because not only are their musical needs different, but environmental needs are different. So it means I kind of become a psychologist, psychiatrist almost in certain ways. I have to be aware of what's going on with this person internally, and try to set the environment in my studio that kind of fits them. It may be a flower here, it may be the kind of tea they want, the kind of, personally, it's just all of us as a family of support in the studio, try to make the environment correct for the artist you're dealing with.
Oh,
and that makes
see.
them comfortable, and you get the best out of them.
Oh, I see. Sounds kind of like common sense, but it might be overlooked, I guess, sometimes. Possibly, I don't know.
Yeah.
You had mentioned a minute ago, too, about renewing your goals. You used the word goals, and it seems like most very successful people, such as yourself, always have some concept of goals or some way they approach goals. Do you have a particular goal formula? Oh, good. Okay.
Yes, I
What's
do,
that?
actually. Well, I kind of went from one to another.
Yeah.
It's almost like, I guess, buying houses if you were into real estate. I started small and then kept setting another goal that was not attainable at that time, and then, thank the Lord that I was able to reach that. I mean, for example, when I was just a jazz artist, I mean, that's all I did was play jazz piano. I set as a goal that I wanted to play with a named jazz group. I wanted to play with a Miles Davis or Cannonball Adderley. Once I attained that and was able to do that, I didn't want to live there. It was time to move on. Let's try something else. This keeps me interested musically. It keeps me fueled, and interested in music. Now I want to do something else. So I started, I thought it was important for me to work with Frank Zappa. I did that. On that level as an artist, I mean, and just on and on and on. I wanted, in terms of records, I wanted a #1 jazz record. I attained that. I said, now I want an R&B record, a #1 R&B record. I did that. Now I want a #1 pop record. I said, I may never get that. I got that. And now I want, I want to do a piece with an orchestra. Fortunately, I was able to do that. Now I want to do some gospel groups and a real, like the Winans and people like that. And so it just kept moving on and getting broader and broader. And the same thing happened as an artist, and the same thing happened as a producer. I started out working with jazz artists as a producer, and eventually worked my way up to doing pop artists.
I see. So you get a goal in your mind, and I know you often, I've heard you speak, and you use the word focus.
I focus on it.
So you just focus on like one goal and just do you break it down to little steps till you get the big goal?
Well,
or?
I try to figure out what makes the music work. I mean, I couldn't, from a jazz artist, go into doing R&B, for example. I mean, really doing R&B without knowing what makes R&B work in the first place.
Yeah.
And I found out from working with Jeffrey Osborne during those days when we had our hits together that the lyric was very important. The way the melody was constructed, the way, the whole bit. And Jeffrey was very much responsible for making me think about lyric. And because I was a jazz musician, I didn't care what the singer was saying, but he totally, when we started working on these songs, he was saying, well, I don't like that word. Maybe we can try another word.
Doesn't like that word, huh?
Why is he agonizing over this word? Because I was a jazz musician, instrumentalist. But now I've learned a lot, and I can see that that's important.
What is about, so long as we're on that subject of lyrics, what should a good lyric do to make it connect with people? Do you have any, from what you've learned, anything we can share for a songwriter or something they should avoid or Can you learn this, or
Well,
do you have to be born with it, or?
No, I think you can learn it. I mean, there are some people I think that are born with it, have a gift. They're natural lyricists, you know, just like they're natural people that play the piano. They just sort of have a natural gift, you know, or the gift of gab, you know.
Yeah.
But it can be a learning. It can be acquired. I know I had to learn it. It did not come second nature to me, that's for sure. I would say that if you're going to be, you know, in terms of coming up with a lyric, it's got to connect to what people are involved with at the moment. I mean, right now, to write songs like we did in the 60s, I don't think are going to work because the situation is different. You know, to write songs about the war or to write, you know, like protest songs, it's not going to mean anything to these kids now.
Yeah.
So most people are internalizing now. I wrote a song called No Rhyme, No Reason, which was something which was personal.
Most people are internalizing?
They're internalizing.
What do you
So
mean?
I was, well, I mean, I'm writing about a particular situation that happened to me, a real situation. I mean, you can write a song about, oh yeah, baby, I love you, if we're talking about that. But most of the songs that connect now seem to mean something to people's lives or something they may be going through. And that's always a test. That's why there's so many songs about love. But I wrote a song on this record on the new album, well, it's a couple years old now, but about it's called Love Songs. And it's like, isn't there anything else that we can write about? I mean, as songwriters, I mean, what else is out there? Why can't we be funny? You know, it's or write a funny song like you just did. You know,
Cool Nerd.
Yeah, on Cool Nerd. I mean, and have it really get over and mean something, you know, or write about something else. I mean, isn't there anything else to say?
Is that what your song was about?
That's exactly what this song is called, Love Songs, and it's challenging us as songwriters to write something else other than I love you, baby.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah, I know what you mean.
But it's very difficult to do that now because those kind of songs don't get play.
Well, yeah.
So it's a tough situation.
Yeah. You know, I just wrote a song. I wanted to write a song. Well, this is maybe about a year ago, and I couldn't think of anything to write a song about, so I wrote a song called I Just Wanted to Write a Song.
Yeah.
And it was about the fact I just wanted to write a song. Anyway,
That's cool.
whatever.
I think there's
funny
more
song.
writing that needs to happen like that. That's just sort of about other things other than just rehashing the same things that Pavarotti and to Barry Manilow and you and I have sung about over the years.
Yeah, I see, yeah. You know what people talk about nowadays, you know, with technology and sampling and all that, all the technology involved in music. Do you have any feelings or thoughts about, you know, a lot of people say all this music made by machinery doesn't have any soul or heart. Do you, how do you feel about that, or do you think it's all part of the same thing? Or
Well, it depends on, you have to consider the source. I mean, the computer is not going to create any music that hasn't been programmed into it, you know, in general. I mean, there's some that do, you know, but by and large, the music that's produced nowadays you hear on the radio is basically done by a computer, but it's got a programmer. There's somebody in there behind it, and it's their responsibility to make that music feel right. You know, and that means sometimes the music's not always perfect, that every beat, every bass drum is not always on the exact, you know, minutia of the beat, you know, because then the music gets stiff. I think it's those little discrepancies that make the music swing and make it work.
Yeah.
So you have to put that in there.
isn't there even like a little button or something that they push to even like make it slightly off or something like that?
Yeah, but it's still electronic. It's not
still
like
electronic.
it's not like you and I playing. You know, and a lot of guys when they do orchestra stuff. For example, I just did a demo. I'm doing the Kansas City Jazz Festival. I'm a music director, and for the finale, I needed to send out this piece we're doing, which is a actually Billy Strayhorn, Duke Ellington piece, Take the A Train. That's the finale with all these artists, and I put a demo together so they could see where they're going to go. Well, I had to reconstruct a trumpet solo, a sax solo, a guitar solo, piano solo is okay, you know, and that kind of stuff, all in the computer with a band playing in a full big band section. And in order to do that, I have to see myself as a trumpet player. I have to see myself as an upright player. You know, I don't just turn on the justification and go dun 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 dun. You know, you know.
By seeing yourself, you mean you actually feel the pressure in your head playing the trumpet?
I'm playing it.
And you have to have some knowledge too, and what's the range of a trumpet and an oboe and all that kind of thing too. What advice could you give an up-and-coming, you know, a musician out there that might be listening now to you, and they're making their demos and they're writing their song, they're playing clubs, and they're maybe trying to get a manager, or Do you have any thoughts or advice?
Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, you have to know your craft. I mean, it definitely helps to be
craft.
good. It helps to know your craft or whatever you're trying to do, and have a focus on where you're trying to go with your music. Because if you're not sure, then whoever you play it for is not going to know.
Now, by focus, you mean if I showed up and I played a rock and roll song, and then I tried to do a R&B song,
Right.
and then I shifted to a Merle Haggard song, this
is not the day and age for that. You know, maybe years ago when I grew up, you know, when I was working with Zappa and days like that, that was the case. Now you need to kind of be kind of monothematic. You know, it doesn't mean there's no variety, but basically your overall vibe and style is one thing. Whether that be musically as well as the way you appear and the way you are, you kind of have that. All goes hand in hand. It's a package.
Okay.
You know, and so don't be like this album is here, which is very eclectic and very diverse. This is not the day and age for that.
I see. Yeah, once you're very much established, you can maybe take your audience. They'll follow you a little bit, but to get
We hope.
Yeah, well, but to get noticed first, you have to.
Yeah, I think that you have to be kind of one thing, unless you're incredible, unless you're absolutely phenomenal, there's nobody else out there like you. And there are a few of those that are that phenomenal that their talent will come through no matter what they're doing, and they want you for that.
Now, how about the idea of the demo and getting noticed by a record company or a manager, or getting your foot in that door, that lucky break type of thing? I know you can create your own, but you know, how would one get their foot in that door maybe, or get noticed? Or
Well, somebody still has to give you that shot. I think that to work live does help. You can many people are involved now in doing what they call, I guess for lack of a better word, demo shows, or, you know, I can't think of the word. Showcases, where they have people come down from the record company and check them out and see what they're about. I think that helps, but nothing can escape having a quote, the infamous elusive hit song. If you got a song that you know connects, and it connects with somebody's record company, all that other stuff drifts away. It all drifts away because they want you.
a song that connects.
A song that connects to them at the record company. And more than likely, unfortunately, nowadays, it's more like whatever is going on the radio now, which unfortunately 6 months from now may not be happening.
Yeah.
So it's a very precarious situation we live in right now.
Yeah. What do you listen for if you're presented with a tape, or a record company comes to you, or an individual manager or artist comes to you and says, here's my new artist, we would really love you to produce their record. What are some of the things that you look for, or what are some warning signs to you that you might not want to work with that person?
For me, mostly now, it's if they're a new artist, it's absolutely talent. I mean, and I know that's a big word, but you can feel it. Uniqueness in talent. Uniqueness in talent. You know, I mean, there's a talent.
In talent?
Yeah, I mean, there's a uniqueness about this talent. Not just you can have a lot of talented people that can duplicate Anita Baker, or can duplicate whoever. You know, there's a lot of followers now. There are not a lot of genuine people who are unique, doing their own thing, going this way. And those are the kind of artists I want to work with.
I see.
You know, there's an artist, for example, I'm working with now. Her name is Rochelle Farrell. She doesn't care what these other singers have done. She does what she does, and she's focused that way. And I want to be there to support that, because we need some diversity here.
I see.
And so I look for uniqueness, but also music that can relate. You know, and an interesting thing, man, I've received tapes recently from 13-year-olds, 13 to 15 to 16 in that range, and a lot of these, mostly girls. They're interesting. The talent, there's definitely something there, and there's a change on the horizon. I mean, there's some, I got one from a 16-year-old girl singing standards. And the girl's got a vibe, I mean, as much as a vibe she can have at 16. I mean, sings in tune, sings odd songs, I mean, songs that with pitches that most girls could only dream about singing. They don't hear that kind of music. It's something starting to happen here among some of these kids, and they're trying to change up and become more unique.
Oh, very good. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I know I hear some artists complain, though, that they hear record companies are only signing young kids, you know, Hanson or the young ones. Is that true, or should you ignore that and just move forward with what you do in anyway?
Well,
how can somebody not be discouraged about something like that?
It is getting younger. There's no doubt about it. It continues to get younger and younger, it seems like.
Maybe it's always been that way.
Yeah,
Eagles.
on a certain level. Yeah, it's always been that way. It seems particularly so now. I don't know what to say other than the fact that there are a lot of middle-aged artists, if you want to put it that way, who have a lot to say musically, and I definitely don't think they should give up. I really believe that there's a market for that music, and there's a large segment of the population that's not being serviced.
I see.
You know, and there are other ways to do it now. There's a big thing going on here, especially in the internet, that people are starting to sell stuff over the internet, and the record companies are going to have to take notice, and things are about to change here.
Gosh, I wish we had more time to talk about that. It slipped my mind what your thoughts about the internet are, but we all are out of time. It goes fast. And I really appreciate you spending time with me here today, and thank you so much, and good luck in New York and all your projects. Okay, thank you, George Duke, and good night, everybody.
Ciao.
Yeah, that was great.
No, you should never look back. I know she's a work of art, Sencherada. Just write it out, you little psychopath. Beauteous Maximus, terra incognita. Future